To Pages with Sidra here, I bring you the novels behind your favorite manga, manhwa, and manhua, whether by translating or simply reading them for you. Let's dive into the stories that inspire the comics we all love. I got a cheat ability in a different world, and become extraordinary even in the real world. Volume 10. Chapter 6, The Sentinel of the False God. Senovis. You bastard. HMPH. No need to shout like that. I just called you a little forcefully, that's all. What fell from the sky was a huge dragon the same size as Oma-san. Moreover, the dragon did not fly but was forcibly dragged out by Zenovis-san's magic. However, he was a Genesis dragon and a being who had also received the power of the false god. Even though he was dragged out by Zenovis-san's magic, he adjusted his stance in midair and opened his mouth wide to face us. I will obliterate you right here. As a tremendous amount of magic power converged in the open mouth of the sunset-colored dragon, it was released all at once. Facing the dragon's breath, Zenovis-san lightly waved his right hand without breaking into a smile. Don't be a bore. Come hang out with us. No. Then, a thin membrane was deployed enveloping us. The dragon's breath hit it hard, but it could not destroy the membrane that Zenovis-san had deployed. While Zenovis-san's defensive magic was repelling the breath right in front of me, Zenovis-san turned his attention to me. Yeah. That is the Genesis dragon that has obtained the power of the false god. No, he should no longer be called the Genesis dragon, but rather the false god's sentinel, the false dragon. The false dragon. As you can see, he looks flashy, but I think it will be fine. Aren't you taking this a little too lightly here? Not only does he look dangerous, but he looks powerful as well. After all, the area outside Zenovis-san's defensive range is obliterated by the false dragon's breath. Originally, there was nothing in the world's disposal ground, but the terrain has changed drastically with that breath attack alone. I mean, if you can pull out such an extraordinary dragon from hiding and also defend against his attack, wouldn't it be better for Zenovis-san to fight him instead of me? No, that's not the case. When he was just a mere Genesis dragon, that would not be a problem, but since he's a sentinel of the false god, it's a different story. If I were to completely destroy him, I would have to increase my output a bit. But if I do, this planet will be destroyed. It would be too powerful and troublesome. The planet will be destroyed. No, well, I knew Alma-san was also in this class, but to be able to cause this level of destructiveness just by exerting a little power is too crazy, Zenovis-san. While I was astonished by the story of a completely different dimension, the false dragon, whose attack was blocked, exclaimed abhorrently. Zenovis, I don't like you. Why do you, a mortal with power that surpasses my own and with that much power, not use it to maintain balance in the world? It is true that you are in charge of maintaining the balance between the holy and the evil on this planet. However, a balance maintained by any existence alone will eventually collapse. Therefore, it is necessary for humans to maintain the balance by themselves. As a result, the humans have drawn the boundaries of this planet. They claimed Arjuna as their own. The humans are evil who are simply devouring the planet Arjuna. Not knowing anything about the background of this time period, I could not understand what the false dragon was shouting. However, I could sense in his words his strong feelings for this planet. Zenovis-san also sensed this. Is this the result of that? Yes, that's right. I am the holy, but I am not the holy for the humans. I am the holy for this planet, Arjuna. That is why I become the sentinel of the false god, and I will bury the humans and return this planet to its primordial state once again. The false dragon held a fierce hatred for humans and did not even try to hide it. The pressure almost crushed me, but Zenovis-san kept a calm face. HMPH. That would have been possible without becoming a sentinel of the false god, wouldn't it? Speak nonsense. Without the help of the false god, I can't defeat you. You will get in my way anyway. You know exactly what it means. That gap between us is going to be disappear today. The dragon flapped his wings powerfully, opened his mouth wide again, and began to converge his magic power. Now, Yuya, let's start from here. I forbade you to use your special powers in training, but in this battle, you can use them to your heart's content. But you must use them with a wooden sword. Why, yes. But will it be okay? Don't be so tense. I will support you. At the same time as I held up the wooden sword, I released all the power that I could use, such as the Holy King's authority, the Holy Evil Creation, and the magic armor. I was a bit nervous about the whole thing. Cha. Normally, when I release such powers, I get a strong sense that my body has been strengthened, but even though I have released all my powers, I feel very comfortable in my body, or rather, I feel natural. When I was puzzled by the situation, which was new to me, Zenova-san told me as if he could see right through it. It will be different from usual, but it's the right condition. The right, you say? The enhanced sensation means that there is much of a difference from the normal state. That is to say, that is how much power you were subjected to. But now, Yuya's enhanced state is natural from the start. You will be able to move exactly as you imagine. I see. Now, don't look away. Here it comes. What? Zenova-san's words caused me to rush to return my gaze to the false dragon, and the next moment, the false dragon once again released a huge breath. Now, Yuya, let's show the results of your training, shall we? Cut through that breath. That. You suddenly demanded something outrageous, didn't you? And yet, unlike during my training, I'm now strengthening my body with all my might. As I was quietly concentrating my spirit, the false dragon in the sky roared. Don't you underestimate it. This breath is completely different from the one you just saw. It's a genuine attack of destruction that also contains the power of the false god. Don't worry now, I can cut this breath too. Then I took a step forward and calmly looked at the breath, and simply swung the sword straight down. Exclamation. Wah! At that moment, a single ray of light flew into the breath. It shifted vertically and then the breath disappeared. Ah, ridiculous. A mere mortal, not even Xenovis, could have blocked my attack. Yuya, I will make a path for you to reach him. Use it to your advantage and close the distance. Yes. I nodded to Zenova-san's words and ran straight out, and suddenly several magic circles appeared in front of me. It continued up to the false dragon in the sky above. There is no way I am going to let that happen. However, to prevent me from approaching him easily, the false dragon flew around at speed unimaginable from his huge body and deployed countless magic spells which he shot towards me. Each blow was so powerful that if it were to hit me properly, it would easily obliterate my body, and these were unleashed like a barrage of bullets. However, I'll block some of them, but you'll have to deal with the rest on your own. Why, yes. Even here, Zenova-san uttered such a thing as if he was still training me. Well, if he didn't, he wouldn't ask me use a wooden sword at a time like this. In fact, Zenova-san dispelled some of the magic that flew toward me, but many of them were still headed toward me. While avoiding some of the magic and slashing at others with my sword, I was surely catching up with the false dragon. Nonsense. A mere mortal is coming after me. Hell. Gwa. When I finally succeeded in sneaking near the false dragon's belly, I swung my wooden sword without hesitation. The body covered with hard scales was slashed open, and blood gushed out. Impossible. A simple wooden sword can cut through my body. Certainly, the Amma sword can cut through everything, but such a thing can be easily done with a well-trained technique. There is nothing strange about that. Get away from me. The false dragon cleaves his huge tail to separate me from him. I just barely succeeded in avoiding it, but just as it passed in front of me, a tremendous amount of wind pressure struck me, as expected of a Genesis dragon, just like Alma-san. I wouldn't have been able to fight properly if I hadn't received Zenova-san's training and support. Once I was further away, the dragon was even more aggressive in sending out magic and breath attacks. Gradually, I began to feel a strange sensation. It was the same sensation I had experienced while fighting the tyrant wolf, as the scenery and movement around me began to fade away. Of course, when I woke up that time, I was in an unfamiliar situation, and I knew that if I continued to let this feeling take over, the same thing would happen to me. However, as I was concentrating to the utmost limit, I had no resistance to surrendering to the sensation. In the midst of all this, I sensed a new movement of the false dragon in my fading consciousness. Originally, I was going to save it to make sure Xenovis was killed. MMM. In an instant, the false dragon soared high into the sky, spread his wings wide, and began to converge more magic power ever above his head. Moreover, it contains the same holy and evil power as me, as well as the power of the false god. If it is released, not only this world's disposal ground but this planet itself could be destroyed. You have lost your mind. You, who spoke of the planet's sake, do you intend to destroy it? If you had not interfered, this would not have happened. But now that you have taken humanity's side, I will end it all here, for the sake of this planet. That's a very convenient way of thinking. But this is a little too much for Yuya, isn't it? I could faintly sense Xenovis-san muttering something in my little bit of consciousness left, but I didn't pay any attention to it and approached the false dragon. Yuya. Phew ha ha. Apparently, the human there wants to rush to his death. Just as you wish, vanish here. The false dragon flapped his wings vigorously and released the mass of energy that converged above his head toward me, or rather, toward the ground. Normally, I would have despaired in the face of such a blow. But strangely enough, I had no feelings about the scene in front of me. I just cut. As if it was a matter of course. NYX translations. The blow was released quite naturally. Cut. With this single thought in mind, my flash of light cut down the mass of power that was approaching in front of me with a single stroke. No way ridiculous. To the astonished false dragon, I did not stop my swinging hand, and with a returning flash, I cleaved the false dragon's neck. Then the false dragon was beheaded, with a look of incomprehension on his face as to what had happened. Having been exterminated by my blow, the false dragon fades away as light. Then my consciousness gradually returned to normal, and the scenery and movements around me went back to normal. Ha, 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 ha. Just like before, I was drowning, desperately seeking air. But what's definitely different from last time is that I remember exactly what happened. That was. Well done, Yuya. That was one of the things you should aim for. I think back to what I've done, to Xenovis-san's words. I don't think I could do it at all if I were asked to do it again, but the fact that this is the second time is definitely imprinted on my body. That split-second feeling was exactly what Xenovis-san was expecting from me. Now, you cannot enter that state in an instant, but if you take the time, you can reach that state, the idle blow. The idle blow. The next challenge will be sustaining that feeling and avoiding exhaustion like you did this time. Nevertheless, well done. When I saw Xenovis-san smiling gently at me, I finally relaxed. Okay, now here's the epilogue of this volume. I decided to include it here because making a separate video for the epilogue felt unnecessary. Let's wrap up the story together. Part 1. Well, thank you so much. You've been a big help. And no problem. A little while after I finished slaying the false dragon, Lanilson came back. I really wish I could have helped you, but there was a movement with the main body of the false god just above and I was called back. I'm sorry. Lanilson bowed her head apologetically. But Xenovis-san indifferently told her. If you and the others in the upper dimension had been more firm, this wouldn't have happened. Ugh, that's true, but be that as it may, the false dragon has been defeated. You have no more business with us, do you? As promised, return Yuya to his original time. Of course, of course. But Observer-samas still want Xenovis-sama to cooperate with us. What? Xenovis-san looked at Lanil-san in a troublesome manner. I've told you many times, settle matters in the upper dimension Don't involve me in it. I know that. That's why Observer-sama says he will welcome Xenovis-sama into the upper dimension. I have told you repeatedly that I refuse to do so. Why do you insist on me so much? In response to Xenovis-san's genuine question, Lanil-san seemed reluctant to answer but spoke honestly. The truth is, in the battle between the false god and Observer-sama's side is currently at a disadvantage. The reason is that the false god is trying to invade our world using a large number of sentinels, just like the Genesis dragon that the two of you defeated. Their number is more than Observer-sama's expected. In order to counter this army of false gods, we need to ask for help from beings with power equal to that of Observer-sama's. But such beings are few and far between. And Xenovis-san is one who fulfills that condition, isn't he? Yes. Lanil-san drooped down powerlessly. In this case, I should say that Xenovis-san is too amazing or that the observers are too different in dimension. Xenovis-san, who heard Lanil-san's story, nodded without changing a single expression on his face. I see. I understand what you said. Then. I understand and refuse. No way. Xenovis-san ruthlessly refused, and this time Lanil-san sank to the ground. But there was more to Xenovis-san's words. I refuse, but as an alternative I recommend Yuya. Yuya-san? I was stunned by these unexpected words. I immediately understood the meaning of the words and shook my head in panic. Wait. To recommend me, that's impossible, isn't it? I'm not as strong as you, Xenovis-san. For now, yeah. I told you, right? You are strong. And there's a good chance you'll surpass me. And no way. That's why I'm recommending you. Of course, it will be tough at this stage, but I'm sure the observers will do something about that. Xenovis-san seemed to have already decided in his mind that I was going to go, and he turned to Lanil-san once again. So, that's it. You can take him with you. And no, even if you say that. No matter how much Xenovis-san told me, it was not so simple to nod my head. After all, we will fight a powerful enemy just like the false dragon I just faced. The false dragon was defeated because of Xenovis-san's power, but it was not necessarily defeated because of the help of observers. Rather. Besides, I'm going back to my own time, you know, so I don't think I can participate in the battle against the false gods. The passage of time is different in the upper dimension and in this world. By the way, the only reason Lanil was able to manipulate time to get time for your training is because she was forced to pull time from the upper dimension. And even if you returned to your original time, it would only be by a few days in the upper dimension. Is there really that much difference in the speed of time? As I thought this, Xenovis-san suddenly thought for a moment and realized something. I see. So this is how it happened, and you're the one to inherit it. Yes. Then let me put it this way. Instead of giving away everything I own, you should go. Xenovis-san smiled mischievously at me, and I was stunned. I didn't know how and why you had inherited all my armor, etc., including my magic circuit, but perhaps this is the moment. And no way. At this moment, you are making a contract with me. That is why, in the far future, you will have my property. The words struck me with such a feeling that everything I had ever done before seemed to connect. T/N, yes, welcome, Time Paradox Chan. Why was it so easy for me to inherit Sage-san's legacy when I first visited another world? And now that I'm here in the past, everything connects, including the fact that I am the first otherworldly person in this world. However, there are still some things that I don't understand. But the future Arjuna didn't know about me, you know. Then Lanil-san, who had been watching what was going on, opened her mouth. Oh, about that all the information related to this false god will disappear from this planet. The fact that Yuya-san had come to this time period and the existence of the Genesis dragon, which became a sentinel of the false god, will all be erased from this world. For observer Samas, the fact that the Sentinel of the False Gods was created in the lower dimension is an incident that they want to cover up. I see. I wasn't particularly aware of this, but I suppose it is significant that we fought in this place. Of course, it would be harder for even observers to falsify information in a place where many people are present. But if it is just Yuya and me, it is still possible to erase the information, right? Yes, that's right. However, since Zenovisama is originally from this era, only the facts about Yuya and the false god's sentinel will simply be erased. In other words, if I return to my original era, everything I experienced will be erased from this planet. But it's still there as my memory, and it's still firmly. So that's why I didn't hear about the other Genesis dragon in the future. I think that's probably what happened. If there was only one dragon from the beginning, then the information must have been falsified. Otherwise, there is no way Amasan would not have talked about it, and there is no way the world would not have noticed such a big event as the disappearance of one of the Genesis dragons. I understand that the information about the false gods, including me, will disappear. But if that's the case, it won't make sense for me and Zenovisan to sign a contract here. Since we will make a soul contract, that's not a problem. A soul contract. Even if I don't remember you, the one who made the soul contract will surely carry out that contract. In this case, I will have to make a lot of preparations for my successor without knowing who that person is. I wonder if Zenovisan doesn't find it strange to be in such an ambiguous state. I'd be absolutely creeped out by the idea of preparing a legacy for someone I don't know who is, and I'd probably throw it out in the middle of the process. There's nothing wrong with it. As long as I move that way, you would assume that there was some reason for it. If it were me, I wouldn't be manipulated by anyone. I will always understand that I'm doing it of my own volition. As expected of Sage-san. Then Zenovis-san held out his hand. So, will you do this favor for me? Exclamation. Zenovis-san stared straight at me. I have been able to acquire many important things thanks to the legacy that Sage-san has given to me. I have had encounters with Lexia-san, Luna, Yuri, and Kiro. I met wonderful people like Master Yuzaki, Iris-san, Odi-san, and others. And Knight, Akatsuki, Alma-san, and Seal. I wouldn't have the family I have today without Sage-san's legacy. Without anything else, I was just an abused high school student. I would still be spending miserable days on Earth. But now I have a place on Earth. I can't thank Zenovis-san enough. That is why. I understand. I don't know how much I can replace Zenovis-san, but if I can be of any help to Zenovis-san even just a little. I shook Zenovis-san's hand. Thank you. NYX Translations. When Zenovis-san smiled gently, something warm permeated my body through my hand and Zenovis-san's. It stayed around my heart for a while, and then it seeped into my body. This concludes the soul contract. You are now my successor. Zenovis-san. When Zenovis-san told me this with a somewhat radiant expression on his face, my eyes lit up. Well, Zenovis-sama is as extraordinary as ever. It's amazing that you succeeded so effortlessly in making a soul contract that has a terribly low success rate and, if it fails, will destroy both souls. Zenovis-san. Ha ha ha. While I was surprised by the bombshell from Lanil-san at the last minute, Zenovis-san laughed out loud for the first time here. The next moment, my body was gradually enveloped in light. What is this? Oh, it looks like it started. I was panicked by the suddenness of the situation, but Lanil-san continued calmly. Don't worry. It's just that observer-samas are preparing to send Yuya-san back to your original time. I see. For the moment, I realize that it is not dangerous, so I look at the situation. What can I say? It's a strange feeling, a little like the scene when you defeat a monster. It's like my body is gradually turning into particles of light and disappearing, but strangely enough, it wasn't terrifying. After all, the sage, Zenovis-san, is right in front of me, so I'm sure everything will be fine. Well then, Yuya. I'm really glad to have met you. And me too. When it comes time to say goodbye, sadness comes over me. Perhaps sensing my feelings, Xenovisan smiled softly. After you leave, I will forget you. But my soul will remember you. May your future be blessed. Yes. At last, I can return to my original time. Just as I thought that, Lanilson dropped another bombshell. Oh, by the way, the evil that was fighting Xenovisama here was called forth in the time when Yuya-sen was originally present, and that evil will be brought back to this time with Observer-sama's power, but it will be troublesome if he resists, so it would be helpful if you could hurt him moderately. Hey, Ie. The evil is supposed to appear right in front of you, so don't think too much about it and just slash it with your sword. I hurriedly tried to ask for more information, but to no avail. I was sent back to my original time. And now, moving on to part 2 of this epilogue. The story is just getting more exciting, so let's keep going. Immediately after Yuya was transported to a past era, the evil who was fighting the sage smiled wickedly. T/N, the second evil was his name. Well then let the carnage begin. Do you think I'll allow that? When Almer returned to his original non-standard size, he opened his mouth and his magic power converged into it. But Evil was still smiling wryly when he saw it. Ha 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 ha. If you want to shoot me, then shoot. Then, after I have prevented it perfectly, I will teach you what defeat is. Stop. I won't let you. Woof. Then Yudi and Knight jumped on Evil simultaneously and attacked him with everything they had, but Evil just stared at them blankly. You are just a nobody. Don't get in my way. Kaya. Kayan. Pei. Pei. Knight and Yudi are blown away by the wind pressure from a light wave of his arm. At the sight of the two, Seal's body was filled with flames of anger and he charged straight at Evil. What? HMPH. Now a fly. You seem quite confident in your power, but it won't work on me. Pei. Fugo. Debuhai. Seal, who at the time of Avis had recovered instantly no matter how much damage he took and had attacked many times, for some reason could not heal the wounds inflicted by Evil's attack and was blown away, as were Knight and Yudi. Quickly, Akatsuki transformed into a giant and caught Seal with his body, but the impact alone nearly knocked Akatsuki down. As purely evil as I am, I can block any ability and take away any life. There will never be another evil as perfect as I am. You bark so much. Having finished converging his magic power, Alma compressed it to the utmost limit and released it at the evil. The magic power that was released like a ray of light contained such power that even a slight brush of it could erase the person's existence. What? Perish here. Facing such an attack, Evil held out both hands without even a thought of avoiding it. Stepping as hard as he could on his feet, he caught the incoming ray of light with his hands. NNNUO. What? As expected, Alma did not think his attack could be caught with bare hands, and his eyes widened at Evil's action. Evil was desperately enduring while raising a tremendous cloud of smoke from his feet. The blessing of our Guad. Kor. The impact of the attack released by Alma obliterated all the evil cult members present. What? Kuku. Nonsense. Despite having injured his arm, Evil was able to survive Alma's blow. Kuhuku ha 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 ha. How is this, O Genesis Dragon? This is my power. Now, next is my. Ha. Wajaya. Ayuya. Evil, who was continuing to laugh loudly, had his body bashed by Yuya, who appeared in front of him without notice. The space in front of Evil's eyes suddenly seemed to distort, and a glowing vortex appeared from it, and suddenly Yuya appeared. Yuya, in fact, had simply taken out Alma's sword and swung it down without thinking much as soon as the transition was complete, as per the instructions given by Lanil before he disappeared before Xenovis. Therefore, I really did cut something, but it's okay, isn't it? He was still flustered about it after all this time. I felt the transition was over, so I took out the Amma sword as Lanil-san had requested, and I swung it down. Of course, to say that I had no idea what I was doing was a figure of speech, but I was only aware that I had actually swung the Amma sword down at an opponent who was releasing a presence that I did not know about. So when I looked again at the being I had slashed, I saw a man like Avis, who had become the ultimate perfect form, desperately holding down his slashed body. Ah, that guy. Yuya. Wolf. Yudi. Knight. And everyone else. Hearing the voices of Yudi and the others, I realized that I had safely returned to my original time. I tried to rush to everyone's side, but that didn't seem to be possible. Don't mess with me! Exclamation. The man who was cut open by me stared at me with a horrified expression. You bastard! Where did you come from? If it weren't for you, I could destroy everything in the world with my power right now. I knew that the person I slashed at was definitely the evil that Zenova-san had originally been dealing with. The only thing I don't know is under what circumstances he came to this time. I don't know, but there is no way I can overlook the fact that he will destroy everything in this world. Dangerous. Yuya, that man blocked Ama-san's attack as well. Yuya. If it had been me before, I would have despaired that I was no longer able to get a hold of him just because he had stopped Ama-san's attack. However, since I was sent to the era where Zenova-san was, with whom we defeated the false dragon there, and was recommended by Zenova-san to fight against the false god, I could not be afraid here. You. Ama-san seemed to have noticed something about my condition and was speechless. Then, the evil stuck out his right arm and concentrated his magic or evil energy there. Perish. The power of that attack was more powerful than the one Avis unleashed in the past, and if it landed anywhere in the Great Devil's Nest, this time, the entire land would be obliterated. I calmly stare at the extremely compressed ray of attack, and I hold my Amma sword in the upper position. And then... Exclamation. Cut. With just that one thought in mind, I swung my sword down. The sword that I swung down collided with the man's ray of light, and after a brief moment of struggle, it sliced through the attack as it was. No way. The evil's other half, which had been unharmed from the first attack, was also severely wounded now. The evil fell to his knees, and suddenly particles of light began to envelop his body. And no way am I going to go back to my original time, even though I have been able to come to a time without him this way. The man began to shout as if he had lost all his composure. Hey, somebody. I don't care who you are. Heal my wounds. Oh, I'll disappear. No. There is no way I can beat him in this condition. The man desperately struggled to his last breath, but the evil cult that had caused all this commotion was gone before long, and in the end, with no one to help him, he returned to the time of Zenova-san's existence. Finished, I guess. Yuya. Wolf. Fugo. Hi. Wah. Everyone, including Yudi, hugged me, and I managed to hold on without collapsing. Ahaha, I'm back. Question. Where in the world were you, Yuya? The moment Yudi tilted his head in wonder, I encountered a situation that had a sense of déjà vu. It was. Ah. Eh? A voice was falling from the sky. Yuya-san, I'm here to pick you up. When everyone looked toward the voice, there was the figure of Lanil-san, falling with tremendous force. Meanwhile, on Earth. You are sure this information is correct, aren't you? Of course it is. Then there must be a chance for us too. The document she was holding in her hand from the Aosei Academy has Yuuya's picture pasted on it, and it contains detailed information, including his background up to this point. If only he would transfer to Nide Academy, we would no longer be afraid of Aosei Academy. I'm going to go scout for him right now. Understood. Thus, a new movement concerning Yuya also began on Earth. Evil returned to his original time after being seriously wounded by Yuya. Cal. As soon as he returned to his original time, the wound he received from Yuya had opened wide, and he fell to his knees as he vomited blood. Damn it. This is for this me to experience this. Struggling desperately, Evil managed to stand up and tried to leave the scene to heal his wounds as best he could. Yes, I have to hurry and heal my wounds. I have been so seriously injured by that incomprehensible being, I will never forget this. What are you talking about? Huh? The words thrown at him so casually made Evil's body stiffen. It was the voice of Xenovis himself, the very person Evil should be avoiding most at this moment. See Xenovis. I was about to slay you, but I didn't realize you were already dying. With a curious expression on his face, Xenovis looked at Evil's wounds and smiled, his eyes widening faintly. Ho! It's wonderful. Apparently, there is a swordsman somewhere who can reach you. If only you weren't here. Evil used all his remaining strength to unleash an all-out attack. But I don't know what you're talking about. A single strike. Evil could not even comprehend what had happened. He was cut to pieces by Xenovis's attack, which was seemingly slashed at random, and he found himself with a single line running down his neck. And nonsense. Evil's head rolled off his torso and disappeared as it was, becoming a particle of light. When Xenovis saw this, he quietly looked at his hands. What a strange feeling. I feel an inexpressible sense of satisfaction, even though it was just defeating an evil. It's as if I've had some kind of interesting experience. Xenovis muttered quietly and smiled. Right. With this feeling, it might be a good idea to research new magic again. For example, magic that crosses over to a different world than here. Xenovis decided quickly and left the place. Thank you for watching Pages with Sidra. I hope you enjoyed this chapter of I got a cheat ability in a different world, and became extraordinary even in the real world. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more volumes and novels. Let's keep exploring these amazing stories together. See you in the next one.